The Texas Iron Man. Corey Dickinson said, "The first time I seen Banjo, I was picking up his half-brother Slapjack. I didn't pay much attention outside of the fact that he was a pretty little son of a bitch." Corey didn't think Joe Haskell would offer him a chance to get him, but that was before Sack had quit in the match against Bo Wells and Bobby Hall. Now Corey looked at Slapjack a couple of weeks after Sack had quit on A.W. McCool. Now this was Betty Joe's first little bred to McCool's bully. Now after that, him and his friend Timothy Hanna had returned to Joe Hoskins' house to buy a little mate to Slapjack. You see, Timmy had never been to a match. He was at Corey's house when he was looking at Slapjack and wanted to get in on the dogs. Corey was pretty broke at the time, so he invited him to be a solid partner on the other brother of Slapjack. Once Timmy agreed, Corey called Joe and made the deal off for Chopper for $400. Now Chopper, he was a cold dog, and Corey told Timmy, that's cheap for a nearly 3-year-old dog. But it was also a gamble if he can get this dog started or not. Now the next weekend they went up to Paris, Texas to Joe Hoskins' house to pick up Chopper. Now while Corey and Joe had been talking and making their deals, Corey's buddy Timmy had seen Banjo and started to play with him. At some point he had asked Joe if Banjo was for sale. Joe told him he can get Banjo for $100 because he was only 9 months old. Timmy hit Corey up about buying Banjo. Corey told him he was not interested in buying that dog because the daddy mama was a man biter and his daddy was a cur that had quit on all fours and was in no danger of dying just 2 weeks ago. You see, Timmy didn't really understand what a gamble buying a dog right off a cur was and how low the odds were that such a dog could turn out. They had a bit of a discussion about the wisdom of that purchase, but Timmy was real hard-headed about it and brought up the fact that he had just put in $200 on a grown dog that wouldn't even fight. Corey had to give in. So he offered Joe $50 for the puppy, and Joe said yes. Corey made sure to stress to Timmy that Banjo was his responsibility since Corey didn't have a whole lot of time to fool that dog and he was too busy keeping up with the schooling of the other dogs. Timmy had no problem keeping up his end of the bargain, and after so long, Banjo and Timmy got to be good friends. Timmy would go out every day and take care of Banjo, play with him and take him for long walks. And during this same time, Corey wasn't having much luck getting Chopper started. But since he liked Slapjack so much, he wasn't about to give up on Chopper that easy. At about 15 months old, Corey had matched Banjo into Wilson's Wolfie. Wilson was a made man from out of Dumont, Texas, under the tutelage of James Creel and Robert Kirkland. With the #1 prodigy in Wolfie, he was from the cream of the crop, the top of the line bred Creel dogs. Now Wilson and Wolfie was fast lane competition from the Game Dog Dynasty, the Creel family. Corey lined the match up on the night that a big event was taking place in North Louisiana, one that would draw everybody. Then they went down south to Creel's backyard, like literally. Corey, Timothy, Hannah, and another good friend of theirs, Tim Lackey. When they got to the box, Wolfie had to cross the pit to take hold of Banjo, since Banjo wasn't all the way on at that particular moment. Banjo was a little slow to get going, and Wolfie got on a hold of Banjo's front paw and broke his 2 middle toes. That was the only serious injury Banjo ever sustained in all 5 of his fast lane matches. It was a lesson he never forgot, and the reason you would see him holding up his front right paw in many of his pitches. Wolfie worked that paw pretty good for a long time. It took that puppy a little while to figure out what to do, but when he got loose, it would be the last time a dog ever got a serious hold on him again until his last fight. But during all the commotion, Corey also noticed something he liked after that. It was a trait that Banjo would show in every time in all of his matches. He would spin his tail in a clockwise circle faster and faster as the fight went on until Corey would think his ass was going to hover off the ground, and that was about the time he would kill him. He wore Wolfie down on the head, then when Wolfie stumbled, he went to the shoulder, and it was over in 45 minutes. This is as long as Banjo would ever have to go. One of the most important things Corey found out about Banjo during his first match is that Banjo didn't travel well. He suffered from severe motion sickness. He would stand in his box and dry heave all the way. He would arrive weak and dehydrated. So for the rest of his matches, Corey would arrive 3 days early, all except for that first one. They matched into Anderson's Slick Kennel Red Dog. It was really a non-event. It took 29 minutes because Banjo didn't get started for the first 25 minutes. He never really got excited. Corey got really disappointed because he was very unimpressed with all them big-time dog men and dogs that were supposed to be the shit from Oklahoma. Corey had no respect for any dog men or dogs from Oklahoma except for Steve Stafford. Steve didn't run with the regular clique, and he was honest and had heart, and that cost him. Then came Grunt and Foolish Pride. Now take a good look at this scenario. Steve was at a big disadvantage from the beginning of this match. He never seen either of Banjo's first two matches, but Coy seen both the Grunts. Coy thought Grunt was a worthy dog, but he also thought he was a 33-pound dog, which he actually was. Grunt was too small for Banjo and Coy knew it. Coy thought he was a really good guy and also thought that it was too early for both of their dogs' careers for them to run into each other. Steve totally misread all of this and thought Coy was afraid of Grunt. Coy wanted to match him for $5,000. And of course he took that as much more evidence that Coy was scared because Coy knew that was way out of his league. Well, to add insult to injury, Steve got thrown in the jail a week before the match. Coy tried to let him out, but Steve had said too much too many, and his pride wouldn't let him do the right thing. So instead, Steve sent his wife and 16-year-old son with the dog and instructions not to pick up under any circumstances. Banjo was starting to get antsy about that time. Grunt never had a chance, and a hard-charging ball of fire like Grunt, who was all business and no foolishness, was just what the doctor ordered. It was a total massacre. Grunt never made a mistake, so Banjo stayed on their head the whole time. Banjo bent Grunt so hard when he got that tail twirling that he busted Grunt's inner eardrum. Those of you that seen the video, you'll notice that Grunt suddenly late in the fight started to stumble around like a drunk. And when you start to get spaghetti legs and you fighting a dog like Banjo, spaghetti legs equals death. Coy was very interested in doing the show. Vito was a 4-time winner and was the hottest Jeep dog alive at that time. Coy found out about Vito because Coy witnessed him. The show was to be at Bear Watching's place in North Louisiana, so the match was set for 60 days out, right in the middle of summer. Well, about 2 weeks out, Bobby Smith called Coy telling him Boyd had been calling everyone telling them that Willard had the FBI, the CIA, and the KKK all over his ass. Barry had called up the show and they would have to make other arrangements. Coy told him straight to his face, he going any place he has to. Then those cursed sons of a bitches ain't getting out of this. Now remember, Banjo gets car sick real easy, and everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Well, finally, Bobby Boy showed up and took them on the tour of Mississippi. 2.5 hours after they took off, they finally met up with Willard and Vito and off they went. Again, after about 20 minutes, Bobby Boy took a sudden right turn out of the line of a side road. Coy's buddy Howard said, "Hey Coy, isn't that the guy we've been following all day? Where's he going?" Coy said, "I don't know, Howard, but that red dog they came to Mississippi to kill us in that black Suburban in front of them, and we ain't losing them." Well, in another 20 minutes down the road, they turned down a country road and a little farther down, a dirt path, then up to a spot where several cars were parked. Willard jumped out of the truck hollering, "Where's Boyd?" Coy told him, "You seen Bob turn 30 miles back just like I did. Cut the bullshit and let's do this." But Bob had half the money. Now remember, the forfeit was $2,500. They thought Coy would just take the $25 and go home. Coy asked, "Who is the ref?" Some guy Coy didn't know stepped forward. Coy said he wanted to weigh him. Willard got a strange look over his face. The ref ordered for him to weigh Vito, and he was almost a pound heavy. Banjo was a half a pound light. They got him in the pit. Vito shot over and Banjo caught him coming in. Banjo started fast and was in full control. Vito was charging hard and was taking off his feet really early, something that never happened in the first 3 matches. And just as he always did, Banjo went to the shoulder and made Vito pay dearly for that mistake. When Vito got back on his feet, he was crippled in the shoulder and bleeding that dark thick blood inside and outside of the shoulder. It wasn't long before he slipped again and Banjo promptly took out the other shoulder. After that, he stayed down more than he stayed up, and they started talking about picking him up. The court figured they could have saved him if they would have picked him up when he first started talking about it. But then about that time, Banjo blew hot. Looked like he was going to fall out. Well, they got all excited and they let Coy call a little funky turn. They were able to get 6 quick handles. Banjo's tongue was in his mouth. The heat spell was over, and so was Vito's life. Banjo went over and was finishing him quick, and by the time it dawned on Willard, it was too late. They picked up Vito, and when they faced him for a courtesy scratch, blood was running down both his front legs like a waterfall. Coy put a collar on Banjo, and he jumped over the wall and drug Coy to the car. They went down south for this last one. Finally, Mark Davis started telling Coy that Ralph had a 2-time winner and wanted a shot, so he took the match and agreed to travel to him. Coy took his old partner Jimmy Mayfield, and they went down there 3 days early and got a nice comfortable motel out of the way. Come Saturday, it was showtime. Coy and Banjo really put on the spectacle. Sonny might have been the best dog that Banjo ever faced. Bad part for Sonny was that by the time he got to Banjo, Banjo was the best dog that ever lived. Sonny was the only dog that ever had to face a grown and mature Banjo. He wasn't even 3 years old yet. Sonny did something that no other dog ever did. He put Banjo on his back. Not for long, but he did it. And not only that, but he also got into Banjo's stifle. That got Banjo's attention and it got Sonny killed. He was doing some terrible stuff to Sonny's chest. He just overpowered Sonny. Everybody figured that he ain't living long after this. It took Rattle a little while to figure out what was really happening, but when he stepped out, they picked up. When the match was over, they handed Coy a collar and lead rope that he can put on Banjo, and he walked himself out the box.